Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's track by track time as we are returning for the second time to Dimmu Borgir. Spiritual Black Dimensions is the album we're going to cover here. We've previously done a track by track for Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. I chose this one, and I chose this because this is an album that features my number one favorite Dimmu Borgir song, the one that I consider to be the best song they've ever done. And it's annoying because obviously a major part of this album is it features a vocalist, a clean vocalist that is no longer with the band, hasn't been a long time. And weirdly enough, his leaving the band was a major shift and turning point for how I felt about Dimmu overall as well. Particularly when I went to see them live after he left, and they did the songs that he sings on and then used the backing track. I was just like, that's just fucking weird. That's just fucking weird. But it is Spiritual Black Dimensions, the fourth studio album by the Norwegian black metal band, released 1999 by Nuclear Blast Records, with a deluxe edition released in 2004, which featured bonus material. This release featured keyboardist Mustus, as well as the clean vocals of ICS Vortex. But at the same time, it saw the departure of longtime drummer Tododville, guitarist Aston Mo, and bassist Nagash. So there were some major shifts in the Dimmu Borgir camp at this point. I'm very familiar with a lot of the tracks in this album. Were you familiar with any?
I'm familiar with a couple.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of big hitters, I think, like that. If you listen to sort of Dimmu or at any point, you may you may come across. Well, at least that's how I felt about them. But that was it. And often when like I listen to songs like that, I wouldn't necessarily know what album that song came from. I just like if somebody said, "Oh, do you ever heard this Dimmu song?" and they said like the name of one or two of these, I would have been like, "Yeah, I've got them songs."
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say I knew this album well. So there were some things that surprised me, including the fact that there were clean vocals. I was quite surprised by, which was quite interesting because I am a Dimmu fan to a degree, but I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan. I'm probably a greatest hits sort of Dimmu fan, you know.
Which is completely fair, because one thing, at least with the greatest hits of Dimmu, is they are actually good. They are great. The greatest hits are actually great. I suspect the very first track is probably one you were quite familiar with, as it's one that appears often in their live sets, and it is, of course, Reptile, beginning in gothic horror style. This quickly erupts into chaotic black metal with the off-kilter symphony playing along in the background. It's an intense start that feels delightfully evil. Then along comes the vocals of ICS Vortex to elevate this one to another level. Yet it has a ton more twists and turns along the way. This is a very impressive, very challenging start.
Yeah, this wasn't one that I was that familiar with actually. This is why it was the first song on the album with the cleaner vocals. So I was like, oh, what's going on here? Jesus Christ! I bet the purists fucking hated that, didn't they? But then maybe they didn't. Then I had like a little argument with myself. I was like, why are they all fucked off for Danny Filth when they got clean vocals on theirs? But there you go. But I do like it. I think it's a really, really good song. It's very, very strong. It's a very good opener for an album. I like the symphonic stuff. I do sometimes think, and I'm sure it was done purposely, but I do, or maybe it was an era specific thing, that sometimes the symphonics, the organs, give off more of like a circus vibe, like the way that they sound. Like it was kind of like, I don't know, I was expecting Johannes to start singing, a couple of times. But I like it. I just felt that that's what it kind of gave me a little bit. Massive fan of the cleaner vocal passage when it happened. I did write down. I was really surprised. I didn't know Dimmu utilize clean vocals particularly, and it really, really works. They should continue that. I didn't realize what you said at the beginning basically was like, yeah, well, that wasn't gonna happen. But it's really, really good. Great rhythms, drums are great, and very, very strong vocals, both clean and not clean. So.
Yeah, of course. Shagrath's vocals, his guttural vocals are immense as well. I don't want to pile praise on ICS Vortex, but the contrast between the two is truly spectacular.
Yeah.
Behind the curtains of night, Phantasmagoria. I love that. I love that crashing of drums at the start. Thought it was a really cool introduction. And this one is a very chaotic track, and actually reflected in the length, a rarity here. Very short by Dimmu standards, 3 minutes and 19 seconds, and it's out and out black and metal with a screaming solo and a constant dark undercurrent.
Yeah, I agree with everything. It's a fast and furious number. Guitars and drums are on fire. A bit more subtle. He used symphonic edge in the verses, which I quite like. The subtlety of it. The screaming leads are absolutely phenomenal, and I really enjoyed the fact that it was short, which isn't a dig, but I just thought, like, it's not overstretched. It's just a really, really punchy and impactful track. So, yeah.
A hyperactive level of intensity. Keep that shit short so it literally lands, hits hard, and then leaves, and you're left shell shocked. That's how you do it. Dreamside Dominions. So this is where I noticed something. I mean, all right, I was already aware because there's an album a lot in the past, but this album has a sound, a specific sound that is made specific by the keys, by the keyboards more than anything else. And I think nowhere is that better highlighted than by this specific track. They're very wild and really add a lot of layers to the black metal, especially when you have vocals howling along in such fashion. This is an epic track. I love it.
I also like it too. I felt like the intro, it's obviously a very strange thing to say, but I thought it was quite poppy at the beginning. I was like, oh, this is quite poppy, with the keys and a sort of gentler drum beat. But obviously, as soon as the vocals come in, that kind of dissipates really, really quickly. I like the flow of the song, though. I think it's got a really catchy rhythm to the bass and to the drums. And I also like the delivery of the lyrics, the way that he sings it and delivers it. I think it's a good song. Yeah.
United in Unhallowed Grace, another prominent feature of the keys, but here they've taken a more wandering style, and the tempo shifts makes this one a little more unique, at least interesting when it speeds up, but this one does me no harm. It just isn't up there as one of the better tracks on the album.
Yeah, I felt like it's a bit like it was just a bit more of the same, like not necessarily in a bad way, but just more of the same. Decent black metal with the big organ sound, combining well with the heavier riff and vocals. And I didn't really think anything stood out on this until the second verse, when the backing melody and flow of the lyrics transforms into something much more brilliant. I love the chunky, groovy kind of instrumental section near the end as well. So it was like a kind of song of two halves for me. It was one which was like, oh, it's just samey, but then it built up to something better. So enjoyed it by the end, wasn't sure by the middle.
Oh, cool. All right. Where are we up to? The Promised Future Aeons. A big symphonic sound serves as the intro to this track. And when it really kicks in, it does stay in place to dominate the track overall. It dominates it. This is one of the grander sounding tracks that I think serves the otherworldly feel this album is going for. And to be honest, is quite obvious to the ears. It does work.
Yeah, I really like the intro. I love the extended symphonic intro, some classy lead guitars and solos. I like the deeper tone of the vocals. The transition, they do a kind of like halfway through this sort of sudden slow down, like sort of stop. And I'm sure, again, it was probably done purposely, but when I'm listening to it, I was just like, it was like the least smooth transition between two sections of a song I think I've ever heard in my life. It was almost like someone ran around the room unplugging shit, so it kind of happened bit by bit rather than like everyone stop. They just went, no, enough, and start pulling them all out. But like, it was just one tiny little moment in a song that I really, really enjoy. It all leads then obviously from that sort of slow down into this kind of really, really massive extended outro as well. So it's got a big intro and a big outro that's kind of bookended by two huge sounds, with wicked drums, guitars, and symphonic backing. So another very, very good song.
Oh, some good descriptions there, man. That's funny. The Blazing Monoliths of Defiance, one of the strongest tracks for guitar parts, I think. Much more in focus and with some electric and eclectic stuff going on. It's almost I end up describing it as like a race Dimmu are on here, as if they're trying to outpace the melodies. The melodies are like catching up with them, but they're going as fast as possible with their heavier sound to just try and keep ahead of it. It left this extremely juxtaposition in my head that I ended up thoroughly enjoying.
Yeah, I liked it too. I also picked up on the guitars. I was like, it's just got some really cool guitar moments, man. It's nice and dark. It's got a wicked ending solo, like a proper screaming guitar sort of solo. Dark and heavy. It's got some interesting riffs and drum beats, and then turns into a bit of a rager part way through, where it, like you said, it just seems like a race. Like, you know, drums are blistering, guitars are furious, everything's just going a million miles an hour, and it's quite chaotic, but like it's good chaos. Like it's good chaotic in a good way. So yeah, enjoyed.
Here it is. So this is one of, if not my all-time favorite Dimmu Borgir tracks. It is the Insight and the Catharsis. This is, it still shocks me. This is fucking epic. This has got so many twists and turns, so many incredible highs and lows. Such a fantastic showcase of ICS Vortex's vocals. This song keeps me so happy all the way along until you get to the latter portion and they switch it up and change it to this wonderful piano melody, and Vortex's vocals come in and fucking absolutely soars. That last section takes this track from a 9 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 for me. This is, I love this track.
Oh, this one sucks. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm very surprised you thought it sucked.
Nah, I didn't. So again, nice and heavy start, faster sections. I think the drums again hit some ridiculous speed levels. And again, I really, really enjoy the clean vocals. I just think they add so much to each song I've heard them on. Maybe in a way because they aren't so prominent on every single song that actually sometimes it's like a little treat. You know, maybe it wouldn't have been quite so special if every song was kind of like that, but at the same time I did feel like I'd rather hear more of them. You know, so I was like, on one side I was like, oh, I think I know why they're underused, but on the other side of it was like, but come on, man, stick some more in there. The solo is one of my favorite on the album, and I really love how the song mixes things up, just constantly changing style almost. The more melodic section with the deeper tone of the vocals works brilliantly, and then you get another bang solo. So overall I thought the song had an awful lot going on, like a shitload going on, but all of it was great. You know, so it still, it wasn't like, oh, you know, throw everything at it and it became a mess. It was like throw everything at it and it worked and it became a brilliant track. So yeah,
we should tell you, if you don't know the song and you're interested to go check it out, it does have the length to reflect all of this incredible twists and turns and shifts. Grotesquerie concealed within measureless magic, because these fucking titles that Dimmu comes up with. Magical and twisted. This is a great combination of symphonic evil and black metal. The problem for me is it's simply this. It is a tough ask to follow the previous track. So this one almost gets hurt by its position more than anything else. But I still find this one really enjoyable.
Yeah, I really like it a lot. I think it's a very, very good song, despite the fact that I'm a grammar Nazi and I have problems with the spelling of concealed.
Yeah.
You know, but aside from that, I was able to get by that. I think it's got a nice intro, nice beat to it, genuinely quite catchy with a mix of drums and keys. Opening scream is really, really powerful. Really enjoyed that. And the transition then into the heavier, quicker stuff is good. And that kind of keep that keys melody leading the way all the way through, which I really, really enjoyed. I think, again, it's got multiple solos and each one are phenomenal. And I really love the back and forth between the two different vocal tones, the sort of higher screams and the deeper, you know, kind of growls, I guess. So yeah, strong song, one of my favorites. Really enjoyed it.
Cool. And that brings us to the end. And the last track is Arcane Life Force Mysteria. It's a big end that starts off quite differently with melodeath style melody. However, that's just a precursor to grandiosity that follows. It's a trawl through hellish delight. I'll bet one that leaves you feeling a bit numb all over. One thing I could say for sure about this track is it is an album ender. Like, it is 100% that. This could never have gone anywhere else in this album, but at the very end.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Still my verse is more
This is one of the ones I knew quite well, so I was like, it wasn't too much in the way of a surprise with it. I really like it. I think the kind of slightly gentler but still quite threatening intro and the little effects in the background work well. I like the build up and then the guitars coming in. I like that whole layered approach generally in music anyway. So yeah, whoever does it, I'm kind of usually down with it. I think it's got quite a headbanging sort of stomping rhythm, which works brilliantly, and it just keeps on building and building until the heavier stuff eventually comes in, and it goes more for the kind of not quite chaos but like aggressive side. Good vocals again, really, really good. I love the clean passage near the end, just adds another layer to the song. But I also really enjoy how the song kind of closes out in a cacophony of chaos with like rattling drums, screaming guitars. I felt that was quite fitting. You know, it's almost like how I wanted it to end. I didn't want it to end too rhythmic or you know, too kind of clean. It was like, you know, really just kind of, I don't know, break down into chaos for the last minute, you know, which was a good way to end the album, I think.
Agreed, 100% agreed. Overall, it's a strong album. It has
Yeah.
some absolutely brilliant Dimmu Borgir tracks, but it's one of those where again I look at it and go, there isn't necessarily a track that I was like, no, that's just terrible. That just didn't happen.
No, I don't think it's a bad song on the album at all. I think, yeah, I mean, there are obviously a couple that I think are clear leaders like that are above and beyond everything else on it, but there's nothing bad on it.
Couple of tracks to stick in the best of Dimmu. Talking of which, top three, and I will go first. And of course, obviously, easy one. The Insight and the Catharsis is their first one I can say. But my other two I decided to settle on was Reptile and Dreamside Dominions.
Well, we match up on one, which is the Insight and the Catharsis.
Yep.
The other two that I went for are Grotesquerie Concealed Within Measureless Magic, and Behind the Curtains of Night, Phantasmagoria, which are the ones with the longest fucking names. So, yeah.
Interesting choice. I wouldn't have. Yeah, Grotesquerie you'd mentioned already, but I didn't think you're going to go back to Phantasmagoria.
I loved it, man. Short little blast of mentalness.
There it is, Spiritual Black Dimensions by Dimmu Borgir. That's our track by track. You got any thoughts on it? You got any thoughts on what we've said here and our choices for the top three tracks? You know what to do? Drop them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?